2, 1, 2. Sve je u redu.
Very warm welcome to everybody at this press conference here at the Media Center. My name is Patrick Schmelzer from the press team of the EU delegation. With us is Mr. David Mekalister from the Foreign Affairs Committee from the European Parliament and the head of the EU delegation to Serbia. Mr. Mekalister has a statement which he will present first. This statement will be also later distributed to the media and will be available on the web pages of the EU Information Center and the EU delegation to follow for you. Thank you, and the floor is yours, Mr. Mekalister.
So, dobar dan. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this press conference. You just heard who I am, David Mekalister. I have the honor of chairing the Foreign Affairs Committee in the European Parliament, and I am also, since 2014, the Standing Rapporteur of the European Parliament for Serbia. This week, a delegation of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the European Parliament is for 2 days in Serbia, and afterwards we're traveling to Kosovo. Our delegation is composed by 5 members. Some of them are attending this press conference. Nina Gill from the United Kingdom from the S&D group, Mr. Elmar Brok from Germany from the EPP group, Mr. Ryszard Czarnecki from Poland from the ECR group, and Mr. Jaromir Kolicek from the GUI NGL group from the Czech Republic. So 4 of the largest political groups in the European Parliament are presented in this delegation. We are happy to be here in Belgrade. We arrived yesterday, and yesterday we met with the President of the Republic of Serbia, Mr. Aleksandar Vučić. We met the Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Maja Gojković. We met members of Parliament that chair parliamentary committees and their vice chairs, so we met representatives of the majority, but also of minority representatives. Yesterday evening we had an exchange of views with representatives of civil society. And today we met in the morning with Prime Minister Ana Brnabić, Minister of Justice Nela Kuburović, Minister of Interior Nebojša Stefanović. Just now we met with Minister of Foreign Affairs Ivica Dačić and the Minister for European Integration Jadranka Joksimović. And we also met this morning with opposition representatives from the Alliance of Serbia, Ms. Aleksandra Jerkov, Mr. Nebojša Zelenović, Mr. Dragan Đilas, Mr. Boris Tadić, Mr. Borko Stefanović, and Mr. Damjan Krnjević Mišković. We in the European Parliament actively support the concrete European perspective of all Western Balkan countries. Let me underline that across party lines, we support the European perspective of all Western Balkan countries. We are also fully supportive of Serbia's continued engagement on the path towards the European Union. This is a long process, and cross-party commitment to this goal is important. We look forward to welcoming Serbia, and especially Serbia's citizens, into the EU family as soon as possible. In order to do so, we talk very openly about the positives and the shortcomings. We welcome the progress made by Serbia in developing a functioning market economy, ensuring economic growth and preserving macroeconomic and monetary stability. This has led to a decrease in unemployment. We have also seen strong fiscal consolidation, which is decisive in instilling confidence in the economy. Over the last 4 years, as we have been told, the general government budget turned from a deficit of 6.6% of GDP to a surplus of 1.2%. The economic reform process in Serbia needs to continue. Ladies and gentlemen, on another point, the inclusive nature in which the recent media strategy was drawn up. Of course, implementation remains key. And let me be very clear that violence and intimidation against journalists is unacceptable. A problem that, sadly, journalists in some EU member states face as well. Serbia needs a pluralistic media landscape with adequate financing and safeguards to protect journalists, including the local media. As the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I always try to have a balanced view on the country I'm visiting, including on domestic politics. And this applies especially to Serbia, a country I've traveled and visited more than a dozen times since I was appointed rapporteur. To have a balanced view on the domestic debate, we meet with representatives of the government, the opposition, civil society to get a broad picture. The European Parliament is willing to support our close partners in building cross-party consensus on the EU agenda and strengthening their democratic institutions. As parliamentarians, you won't be surprised that we are attentive to the difficulties experienced in the Serbian parliament in both its legislative and scrutiny activities. This has led to some members deciding to boycott the plenary sessions. I believe a parliament needs to be the center for democratic debate. I have therefore expressed readiness on behalf of the European Parliament to facilitate cross-party engagement, for example, to amend the rules of procedure or work on a code of conduct. This type of support by the European Parliament, which we call the Jean Monnet dialogue, has been applied in some countries. If there is interest in the Serbian Parliament, the offer is there, and I'm very sure that the experts of the EU remain available. Beyond the work in the National Assembly, we know that the reforms, which cover a large number of areas from the rule of law and public administration reform to social development, environment and agriculture, these reforms can be costly. This is why the European Union supports these efforts financially. The European Union is by far the biggest donor and investor to Serbia, with over 7 billion euros provided in grants and loans over the last 10 years. This is our concrete investment for the future of Serbia as a European Union, and I believe this is well spent money. This evening, or to be precise this afternoon, our delegation will travel to Pristina to meet with the authorities, parliamentarians and representatives of the civil society, and also of the Serbian communities. Our discussions, as was the case here in Belgrade, will address the dialogue facilitated by the EU. Let me take this opportunity once again to thank the High Representative and Vice President Federica Mogherini for her tireless efforts, as well as Presidents Vučić and Thaci for their commitment and leadership on this complex but essential issue. Indeed, the European Union cannot and will not import any bilateral disputes or frozen conflicts. We would like to see a continued commitment to reaching a comprehensive, legally binding agreement. This is first and foremost in the interest of all the citizens in the region. There is a window of opportunity. Belgrade and Pristina need to reach an agreement that resolves all outstanding issues before joining the EU. For this to be possible, both Pristina and Belgrade need to contribute to a conducive environment. And the very first step for this is for the Pristina authorities to suspend the 100% custom tariffs on goods produced in Serbia and coming from Serbia, as well as Bosnia and Herzegovina. Let me once again underline, this is in violation of the CEFTA agreement. I have repeatedly stated my position on this, but I will also do so when I meet Prime Minister Haradinaj and others in Pristina. Let me finally reaffirm the position of the European Parliament that Serbia, as well as Kosovo, should remain multi-ethnic, and any agreement could only be acceptable if it is mutually agreed by both sides, is in line with international law, and takes into account the overall stability in the region. Such an agreement might be achieved if there is political will to do so. This would be a major accomplishment for Serbia and the whole region. Together with the essential reforms I have already referred to, this accomplishment would enable your country to take a leap forward towards the European Union. And a final remark, because I followed the Serbian media after the visit of the French minister, Madame Loiseau. Yes, the EU needs to reform in order to increase its efficiency and effectiveness, especially if more countries are to join. But let me be very clear, there is a wide consensus to ensure that candidate countries do join the EU once they have fulfilled the conditions. So it's up to us in the next years to reform the European Union, to make the European Union more effective, more transparent, more competitive, and we will also do this while continuing the negotiations with countries who are interested in joining our EU, so when they are ready to join, we are fit as an EU to accept new members. Let me say on behalf of all my colleagues in this delegation, and I can say across political parties in the European Parliament, the huge majority of colleagues in our Parliament supports further enlargement, and we will support further steps also in Serbia on this way. Thank you very much. Hvala puno.
Thank you, Mr. Mekalister. We're ready to take your questions. Please be so kind, briefly introduce yourself and for whom you work. Please. Please.
Izvolite.
Emina Kovačević, televizija N1.
Wait a moment.
Okay. Emina Kovačević, televizija N1. Dakle, informisali su vas i predstavnici vlasti i opozicije.
I'm sorry. Now I can, sorry.
Informisali su vas i predstavnici vlasti i opozicije da se u Srbiji svake subote dešavaju građanski protesti. Jedan od glavnih zahteva građana koji protestuju jeste da žele slobodne medije. Da li je vama jasno zbog čega građani u Srbiji protestuju i žale se na nedovoljno medijskih sloboda? To bi bilo prvo pitanje. A drugo je u vezi sa bojkotom parlamenta. Da li mislite da bi opozicija koja je parlament napustila trebalo da se vrati u Skupštinu? Hvala.
First of all, I'm very happy that our EU ambassador, Semom Fabricijem, is sitting next to me, so he's also ready to take any of your questions, as he is our highest representative here on the ground in Serbia. We listened very carefully to what the representatives of the government and the ruling parties had to tell us, and we also listened carefully to what representatives of the opposition had to tell us, and I tried to underline that we are here to understand better what is going on in Serbian politics and in Serbian society. We are following the protests in Serbia, peaceful protests, let me stress that freedom of expression and freedom of assembly is a fundamental right. We are very interested in what's going on in Serbia, but we are not an actor in the domestic political debate between the political parties. So we listen carefully what they say, and we try to make our own picture. The European Commission and the European Parliament, in a number of reports and statements, have expressed concern about the functioning of the Parliament, and we addressed this issue yesterday, talking to Madam Speaker and to the representatives, and of course we had very different views what is actually going on in the Parliament. In general, we can state that there's still a high number of urgent procedures, that a high number of amendments on the first agenda item are tabled, with the result that the debate is limited. And we also heard complaints that public hearings are rare in the Parliament. So the way Parliament is functioning, there are different views, and my message today was the European Parliament, or the European Union, is ready to give some advice how perhaps the rules can be amended so that we have a more inclusive approach, but it's up to the Parliament to decide if they would accept some formal advice on this issue or not. We can only underline that we are ready to offer this. Now, I just said in my statement, I'll quote this once again, and I am a convinced parliamentarian, and I've been a member of a regional parliament in Germany for 16 years. By the way, in the government and in opposition, I know what it's like on both sides. And now I'm a member of the European Parliament since 5 years. So as a convinced parliamentarian, I would say that a parliament, or the parliament, is the central place for democratic debate. And every elected member of a parliament will have to decide for himself or herself if she or he is serving the citizens who elected him or her better if he doesn't take part in the debate or not. I would always say that a parliament is the place where you should have a competition of ideas, a competition of views, and together in a democratic debate find the best possible solution for the challenges Serbia is facing. So I understand that opposition representatives are criticizing some of the procedures in the Serbian parliament. However, every MP should ask the question if he might be missing an opportunity to engage in a debate with the government, to engage in a debate with the majority. So I'm trying to keep it as diplomatic as possible. When I go to Serbia, I'm not here to lecture people. I'm just giving some advice from my side. Sem, would you like to add, please?
Yeah, thank you. No, I can concur with your judgment in our annual report. The last one was in April 2018. We have already remarked some of the difficulties and challenges that we see in the functioning of the parliament. I think the phrase we said, the parliament do not exercise sufficiently oversight on the work of the executive. We have made a number of comments, so this is not new to us. I think it's important that this visit of the AFED has been an occasion also for having a very long exchanges yesterday with not only with the speaker but also with the chair and deputy chair of all the most important committee. There has been a long discussion there, and I think the suggestion made by the European Parliament also to be ready to give assistance in how to make the Parliament working better, I think is certainly an important offer from the European Union as such. Of course, it will be for the Parliament to seize this opportunity.
Hvala, izvolite. Izvolite, koleginice.
Možemo samo mikrofone da vratimo, pošto... Ok. Natalija Lučić, televizija Al Jazeera. Imam pitanje, idete u Prištinu sada. Na koji način možete da utičete na Prištinu da promeni odluku o taksama i šta bi se desilo? Šta je vaš komentar ukoliko oni ne žele da ukinu te takse? To je prvo pitanje. A drugo, da nam kažete neke detalje o sastanku sa čelnicima Saveza za Srbiju. Eto, toliko.
To start with the second question, I read out the names of the representatives of the Alliance of Serbia we met. It was an exchange of views of about 1 hour in the premises of the EU delegation, and the representatives all took the floor and gave us their view on the current political situation in Serbia, and then colleagues had the opportunity to ask questions and to go a bit more into detail. So that's what I can tell you about that meeting, and I also said something similar to what I just said when I answered your question about the protests on the one hand, but the other hand, the question if it's a good idea to boycott the parliamentary sessions or not. I have my view, and the representatives of the Alliance of Serbia took note of my view, and of course I took note of their positions. Now on Kosovo, the Americans have called on the Kosovo authorities to revoke the tariffs. The European Union has done so. The High Representative Federica Mogherini, Commissioner Hahn, representatives of many, many member states. I would, or I will, tell our Kosovo interlocutors that these measures are a violation of Kosovo's obligations under SIFTA and of the spirit of the Stabilization Association Agreement. There are fora for addressing issues and grievances, and the party should make use of them. Commissioner Hahn, for instance, has already expressed readiness to support this process. But what's happening now, and our meeting with President Vučić yesterday was also under the impression of his previous meeting with representatives of the Serb communities in Kosovo, and the announcement that they now have 45 days that he can discuss this on an international level. I would always tell the Kosovo representatives, Pristina shouldn't waste the opportunity to solve their outstanding issues with Belgrade. No further condition or delaying tactics should be put up by either party, and what we need is that both sides return to the negotiation table negotiating table in Brussels, and that both parties need to negotiate in good faith and create the environment for it. The EU is ready to facilitate the dialogue, but as long as Kosovo hasn't revoked this decision, we're not moving forward. And so this is not only in the interest of others, it's also in the interest of Kosovo that we should resolve this issue swiftly. And as I said, there is a window of opportunity. I believe that the dialogue, thanks to the engagement of the two presidents, had entered a new phase, and there was a momentum. But of course, for several weeks now, nothing is going forward. So that would be my argumentation with representatives, by the way, of government and opposition in Kosovo, because wherever we go, we also always meet representatives from both sides. Sam? So, one more?
Ja.
Izvolite.
Dušan Komarčević, Radio Slobodna Evropa.
Oh, we
Imam
know
dva
it.
pitanja. Hi. Nevladina organizacija Freedom House je u svom posljednjem izveštaju označila Srbiju kao delimično slobodnu zemlju. Kako gledate na tu ocenu? I drugo pitanje se tiče vas kao poslanika u Evropskom parlamentu. Kako komentarišete činjenicu da ćerka Dmitrija Peskova, portparola ruskog predsjednika Vladimira Putina, trenutno stažira u Evropskom parlamentu? To vas pitam jer su neke vaše kolege zabrinute, kažu jer gospođica Peskov navodno ima pristup
Sorry to
bazama
interrupt you. I think there was an issue with the translation. Can I just stop you? Sorry, can you just go back a little bit?
To repeat the other question, the second one. Yeah. Dakle, kako komentarišete činjenicu da ćerka Dmitrija Peskova, portparola ruskog predsjednika Vladimira Putina, trenutno stažira u Evropskom parlamentu, a to vas pitam jer su neke vaše kolege izrazile zabrinutost da ona navodno ima pristup bazama podataka. Da li vi delite tu zabrinutost? Hvala.
On the second question, this young lady was obviously a stagiaire with a colleague from the far right, from France. As a committee chair, I am not informed who is working for which colleague, and certainly not who is working as a stagiaire or as a student for colleagues. I was informed about this 2 or 3 days ago. Every member of the Foreign Affairs Committee has access to certain documents which might be politically interesting, but the colleague the young lady was working for has no access to strictly confidential information. This case once again shows that there are obviously close links between political circles in Moscow and extreme right-wing political parties in Western Europe. We've seen this before, we've seen this once again, and certain Russian support for the far-right anti-European forces is well known. And I think a lot speaks for itself here. So hopefully I have answered this question. And on the first question on media freedom, I took note of this report. If you look at the reports of the last years of the European Commission and the European Parliament, we have always addressed the situation. And let me just say in general, as I just said in my statement, Serbia needs a pluralistic media landscape with adequate and transparent financing and safeguards, including local media. In the country where I come from, Germany, the free media is called the fourth power. But apart from the judiciary, the legislative power and the executive power, we have the fourth power in our country, and an independent media is a key principle for a modern democracy. So we know how the situation is in this country. We have addressed the shortcomings, and we call on all political responsible people to improve the situation of the media in this country. The media strategy is the one thing. Of course, the implementation of this media strategy will be decisive, but what I would commend is the inclusive nature, how this media strategy until now has been drawn up. And I would also like to mention the support of institutions outside Serbia which were helpful in organizing this inclusive approach. Sem, please.
Yes. On the first question, again, I think we were quite clear in our reading of the situation. If I can quote by heart, we said we saw no improvement in what we call an enabling environment for freedom of media expression. This has been quite clear in our report in 2018. We have engaged the government on a continuous basis on this. I think the media strategy that the government has drafted with most of the journalist association is an proof that dialogue on the media issues is possible. We have called for a wide range of an inclusive process and a media strategy that look at the different angles: safety of journalists, media ownership, transparency, regulatory system, the public broadcaster. So it's a very ambitious and important document. Again, need to be brought forward in an inclusive process, and most of all need to be implemented. So I think I can echo the comments by the chairman. Says that inclusiveness implementation will remain key, and we will remain constantly vigilant as the European Union in the progress that will be made. And I think our next report will certainly look again into this important issue.
Izvolite. Da li ima još pitanja? Da li se još neko javlja da postavi pitanje? Naravno. Izvolite.
Samo kratko za gospodina Mekalistera. Pomenuli ste da su u Nemačkoj mediji četvrta grana vlasti ili četvrta sila, kako ste rekli. Jel mislite da su mediji u Srbiji četvrta sila?
Germany is a democracy now for 70 years, and my country had the opportunity to enter the family of civilized European nations again after all what happened in the name of National Socialist Germany from 1933 to 1945. And Germany will never, ever forget that nearly all European countries were ready to forgive the German people for what had happened. So we had a chance of establishing a second democracy after the first democracy failed. And we now have 70 years of democracy. We have strong democratic institutions. We have a democratic tradition. And we are in a different situation than the young democracies in Eastern and Southeastern Europe who had the opportunity to begin a democratic process after 1989, 1990, every country being very different. So we have well-established democratic structures in our country, and media freedom is of so crucial importance for our country because we know that it is a key principle of a functioning democracy. That's why we call it the fourth branch, because it comes from classic state theory. You only have 3 branches, but the fourth branch is so important to control what elected politicians in government and opposition are doing and to control the state authorities. Semom Fabricijem just referred to the situation of the media in Serbia, which the European Commission, also the European Parliament, have been referring to, and once again, it would be ideal if Serbia had a pluralistic, free media with adequate and transparent financing and safeguards, including local media. We know that there's some work to do, and the European Union would give all support to ensure that we have media freedom in this country. So we take note not only of the latest report, but we are very closely following this debate in your country, and rest assured that the European Union will always be a champion for free media. By the way, not only in countries who are interested in joining the EU, we also have some issues with member states of the European Union where we have also been very clear, and sadly enough, threats and intimidation of journalists is something which is also happening in member states of the EU. We have had appalling incidents, for instance, in Slovakia or Malta in the last 1 to 2 years, and we know how important this is for all your colleagues around the world, that you can do your work without being harassed. Can I finally say, just on a personal note, this will be my last visit in this period as a rapporteur for Serbia. I have been to your country more than a dozen times, and I really wanted to thank all journalists in Serbia, because I had the opportunity of following what you are producing, what you are writing, what you are publishing, thanks to the wonderful English translations of the newspaper clippings I get every day from the EU delegation, and you are actually now a fundamental part of my morning life. The first thing when I wake up in the morning, I usually first read a bit about the media in Germany and in Brussels, but when it's time for breakfast, I have already the newspaper clips in the English translation from the EU delegation. So a lot of media in Serbia has really come a bit close to my heart, following all these stories. And let me just say, your country is a great, great nation, and the best thing in Serbia are the people. And that's why I will remain strongly committed that your country, hopefully sooner than later, can join the European Union, but Serbia will be ready when it's ready, and this will very much depend on the further preparedness of the government and the parliament to implement the necessary reforms. So have a wonderful day, and do viđenja, and now we go to Pristina. Okay? Bye-bye.
Hvala gospodine Mekalister, zahvaljujem se novinarima što su se odazvali pozivu.
Just a technical announcement, this press conference, I understand, will also be available on the website of the Media Center to follow up as a follow-up to this press conference if you want to look up something. Thank you.